Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Hemmings Hot Rod Barbecue. I am the big-footed Mike Musto, along with
the sure-footed Dan Stoner. Sure-footed, Mike. You hear that? It's it's better than saying small-footed. I don't know. It feels better to say sure-footed, I guess.
Short-footed is who doesn't want to know somebody who's short-footed, right? That's just
right.
stable and dependable and
like Johnny on the spot, right? Like reliable. Like I didn't, I'm not getting drunk at the party, but I brought the beer. It's that guy. I want to be that. I want to be that guy.
Well, and also if you were small-footed, like there would have been a fight already because somebody had been like, look at the size of his little feet. You would have been like, wait a minute.
Fist fight already. That's for sure.
Yeah. So, all right, now that we've got Dan and my foot sizes out of the way, which are both short-footed and big-footed, we have a great show. So on this episode, we have an amazing guest by the name of Ron Baugh, who let's just call Ron an OG wheel specialist. He is, he has been designing wheels for the past 20 years. He's done everything in the wheel business from marketing to actual design work to sales. Ron is the OG wheel guy, and he's designed wheels for some of the biggest celebrities out there. But more importantly, he will tell you exactly what the difference is between all the wheels, where the technology lies, and what's going to go on moving forward, right?
I think that's one of those mysteries of the universe, like wheels in general. Because I think a lot of people think they're experts around wheels, but I think most people really don't know how a wheel is made and backspacing and all the dark arts of, making a wheel round enough so that it doesn't jackal your back of your teeth out. That's not easy. And Ron's the guy.
Ron is the guy, which is why we've got him on the barbecue.
Yeah.
Exactly. With that being said, we're also going to be pulling out another car from our amazing classified section. 25 to 30,000 different classifieds, the largest classified section online, along with our massive marketplace, which has just about every part for your car, truck, or van. And also, I'm just going to throw in a little plug for our own auction site. An auction site.
Hemmings auction. Yeah.
Dude, I mean, you got a car, you want to sell it, you want to get some major eyeballs, but more importantly, the best sale price you can, listed on Hemmings auction.
Right. Yeah. And then what do you do with it after you've bought the car and owned it for a while, and maybe your eye starts to wander a little bit, Mike? What do you do with it then?
I'm thinking you put it back on the auction and give somebody else a shot at it. Right? Man. Just continue the experience. Full circle.
Yeah.
That's what we do with
Hemmings. Of life. Isn't there a song about that?
There is. Right. There is. Okay. But it was I think it was sung by Elton John.
Oh, damn it. Someday, man.
Which is fine. So, all right. So, people, we will be back in about 2 or 3 seconds with our classified car and Ron Baugh, our super special wheel guy extraordinaire. Sure. So, all right. See you in a few seconds.
Awesome.
Hey, everybody, and we're back with our classified pick of the week, which is...
Love it.
Oh, it's Stylish.
What do you got this week, Mike? What do you got? I mean, this is exciting. I'm always excited by this.
I'm pulling something out of our era, the era of the 80s and the 90s, okay? You've seen them in high school parking lots all through that era. You've seen them in movies, right? You've seen them in movies.
Yeah.
But more importantly, it is just a symbol of the 1980s. I speak, of course, about a 1988 Ford Mustang GT convertible.
Ooh,
right?
Boy, nothing says 80s more than Mustang GT. Oh, and man.
This one, the one that I found is white with the red lower stripe and then the bottom gray half. But more importantly, it's got the white letter tires on it. And it reminds me of the same one that... what was the guy's name? What was the actor's name in Roadhouse that drove one?
Ooh, Ben Gazzara. Yeah.
Dude, well done.
Guy. Huh? That guy just pulled that out. I pulled that out of some dark part. That's that. And of course, Ben Gazzara in Roadhouse. That was probably the darkest part of that movie. So
that definitely was.
From the same place. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, it's awesome. Really interesting. Like this one, it's white with white leather interior. Like I said, it's got red accents. It's an auto. So this is not your super fast LX notchback. This is for the guy or the woman or whomever would like a wonderful cruiser to do just that. Put your top down, cruise down Miami Beach in a convertible Mustang, right? Has the right noises, right look.
Hey, and by the way, Mike, this brings up a good question. Now, if you're of a certain vintage, somewhere along the line, you would probably get into a conversation about whether you are a Beatles man or an Elvis man, right? Like that becomes sort of a conversation about what kind of stake you claim in the world, right?
Yeah.
But I think for people like you and me, are you a Ben Gazzara, wide, cruise down that country road roadhouse guy, or are you an A1A Beachfront Avenue guy, right? Or are you the Vanilla Ice Mustang GT guy? Like maybe that's how we define ourselves. Maybe that's how we carve out our niche and our place in the world. Are you a Vanilla Ice guy, or are you a Ben Gazzara guy? Are you a Roadhouse guy?
Oh, or man, that's
what I mean?
That's a big question. I mean, all right. So I personally, all right, and we're talking personally. I'm gonna have to go with Mr. Ben. I'm gonna go to I have to go with the Roadhouse, and the reason is that one scene in Roadhouse where Ben is just sitting behind that red GT. He's weaving back and forth, not a care in the world. He's just singing.
Runs singing. Patrick Swayze off the road.
Runs him right off the road in Swayze's 65 Riviera that he was driving. Didn't care at all.
No.
Right? One day I would like to be that carefree. Not that careless, mind you. Carefree.
Yeah, I get it. And see on my end of the world, I mean, if anyone ever from across a crowded room yells out A1A, I will automatically respond with Beachfront Avenue, and that's so I got to be on the other end of that.
I got it. Well, that's the beauty. That is the beauty of the '88 Ford Mustang GT convertible, because it brings us back to days gone by when Dan and I were just young people.
It brings all comers. It welcomes all comers. Yeah. It's the universe. Is the universal peace machine. That Mustang, right?
Yeah, I like that.
Right? It's something for everyone.
How do we contact Ford to make them adopt that slogan? Okay, so I think we stretched out the Fox body as long as we can, even though it's an amazing car, as we both know. But right now, we're going to take a 2-second break, and we're going to come back with our special guest, Mr. Ron Baugh.
Ron Baugh.
All right, so we're back on the Hemmings Hot Rod Barbecue podcast with our super special guest star, Ron Baugh, product development specialist at Wheel Pros. As you can tell by the way Ron looks, he has more style than myself or Dan.
Good point.
He is my professional style consultant, which obviously I didn't consult with him today because I still look like I do.
Dude, I will say I have never been able to wear a baseball hat backwards ever and be able to pull it off. I think it's because my head is kind of misshapen, you know what I mean? So so someone like Ron, who actually has the right shape of skull, can actually pull off the backwards baseball hat. You could make that work at a wedding if you needed to.
Yeah, it's pretty, I this is like my uniform, honestly.
That's
it
uniform.
helps to have no hair. Then I'm covering something up, but I also don't have hair to like distort the shape of the hat. So that works.
It's a lot of detail, man. That's good.
I'm 40 years old. I'm like an 80s baby, a 90s kid, and I still like rock a backpack instead of a briefcase, and I still, wear my hat backwards. So, some kids just don't grow up.
But here's the big question. Do you rock the khakis with a cuff and a crease?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. Just checking, man. I mean, I know you're a SoCal guy. You're a SoCal guy.
I live in Long Beach. Come on, man.
Hey, even better. Okay, so you caught the reference. All right. So I don't feel too terribly old.
No. One day we're gonna do when you see the full YouTube channel that goes up for Hemmings, and you'll see Ron on there because let's just say Ron's gonna be on there with his own special gift to Hemmings, which is pretty amazing. But I'm gonna have Ron and Dan take me out on a special Mike Musto makeover. And we're going to do a little rockabilly, and then Ron's going to introduce some fashion sense, and hopefully I won't look like this that much longer.
Oh,
That's
man.
the deal, dude. We just got to work on your footwear.
Oh, the footwear. Oh, that's such a good point, man. Every time I see Mike, I want to just look at him like, what are those? Bros. Like I just, yeah, Mike, that's true, dude. I love you, man. But Ron makes a good point about the foot.
So
Everything else works for you.
I will preface this since y'all can't see my feet right now. I am limited because I have a size 15 foot.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good
It's
Lord.
a big, yeah, good Lord. That's exactly my problem. You think I want to wear the stupid banana feet that I have to put on now because that's the only thing that I can get my size? No.
Yeah.
How do you even drive anything?
Yeah, how do you drive it?
I could swim really fast.
That's true. And by the way, for everyone listening at home, I just want the record to show and to state that it's not like Musto is out there wearing a pair of Air Jesus, rock climbing Portland, Oregon sandals. It's not that bad. It's not that bad, but I think he's definitely buying his footwear at like, say, I don't know. It's not necessarily a New Balance outlet, but you got to find a 15, right?
I got to
that's
find
not the easiest thing. Right.
A stylish 50. So again, this is not on card topic, but we're gonna throw it out there anyway.
Right.
So for a million years, I wore a set of Adidas Samba Classics. That was my shoe.
Right.
Love them. Stylish with anything.
Yeah.
Right.
Timeless.
Ron, right, Dan. Good.
Timeless.
They stopped making them.
Yeah.
In a 15, and I literally called Adidas and I was like, listen, this is my problem. I was like, I will pay you really whatever you want. Like if you tell me we will make this shoe for you, but it'll cost you $500 a pair, I will gladly pay you $500 a pair. I will buy $5,000 worth of sneakers in bulk.
Yeah.
Give me my No, I have no. So now I'm forced to wear these stupid sneakers that nobody likes, but that fit my feet. That's why. Why do you think I don't have my feet up right now?
Okay, I mean, the other thing you could do, and Ron, you can attest to this, he could spend 10 grand on a pair of J's. He could just do that.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of options out there, man, but it's hard for a 15, man. That's something I've never concerned, man.
No, me neither, man. You and me both, Ron.
I mean, yeah, you could spend 5-10 grand on one pair of whether they're Dunks, like special edition Dunks or Jordans, or anything else. Like,
yeah,
you could easily spend that on just one pair of shoes, but they might not fit right.
Well, once everything commences with the Super Hemmings channel, we're going to go out, and I think on one of our shows called One Perfect Day, I think that one perfect day is going to be acquiring Musto some decent feet.
That's not a bad idea. It's not a bad idea.
That'd be fun.
All right, now that we've discussed my mongoloid feet, we are going to let's get back into it with Ron, who is Ron has been in the automotive game for a long time. Ron was at CEC Wheels. He was the head designer for Forgiato. He was at Hoonigan. Ron has a long and storied career. That always revolves around, let's just say, really, really good style. How's that?
I'll take that.
That's fair.
I mean, I'm 40 years old. I've been in the automotive aftermarket, working specifically in like the wheel world for 20 years now. It'll be 20 years next year. Like 2001 was when I first started in the wheel industry. So,
wow.
It's crazy to think that it's been 2 decades, but I still feel kind of like the new guy. Like even though I'm sort of old guard and I have an office now, I've got, responsibilities. Like I still feel like, like the new kid on the block in some respects.
So Ron, would you say that you are post Coddington, but pre Box and Bubble? Is that where you kind of got into this? That's
exactly where I got into it. It was like, the billet stuff and like the hot rods of the 80s and early 90s. And then, the sport truck craze, like that was what really got me interested in the cars, specifically wheels. As a kid, I was raised an only child, and like I was always artistic, and I drew cars from like age 3, right? So I was always drawing hot rods. My idea of concept cars and, sport trucks was like the thing because, I'm colorblind, but I loved like bright pastel colors and the stuff that, the hot rodders and the custom painters were doing back in the 80s and early 90s, especially with sport trucks and like street rods and bro street cars. So that was a fun outlet for me as like a, teen or preteen to kind of come up with wheel designs and paint schemes and all that stuff. So that's definitely what got me interested in the cars at a young age, and carried that right into my profession, working with wheels and coming up with new fitments and designs and stuff. And it's been rewarding and it's been fun, and I can't believe it's been 20 years. Here we are.
Man, that's cool. Hey, okay, here's a question for you. Like, please tell me you ran like a dancing bed B2200. Do you ever do one of those?
I would have loved it. I absolutely would have loved it. Like,
how cool would that have been?
Car, like, it's funny. Like, I wasn't super into mini trucks back when I was a kid. Like, I thought they were cool, but like, I definitely passed by mini trucking on the newsstand for trucking or four-wheeler or sport truck or like 5.0 Mustang, because my first car was a 5-liter Mustang, a 93 GT convertible. But I've definitely gained an appreciation for mini trucks and like the creativity and style and just like the fabrication that goes into those builds. So I'm a huge fan, and now it's like that's something I would love to have one day, is like, crazy like lowrider mini truck with the dancing bed, like on wires, like bed full of speakers. Like, you got to do it all the way.
So good.
Good. So Ron, so you've seen everything, like from the, and I think all of us right now have seen, like, between you, myself, and Dan, and we've seen wheels come almost full circle, right? From like literally 15-inch Kragers back in the 60s and the 70s to Keystones to the Boyd Coddington era of the billet wheels and stuff like that. And then we went to 20s. Remember, 20s was a big thing. Everybody was like, I got fucking Dubs. And,
big deal.
Big deal. Like every passenger car, like GT3s come with a 21-inch rear. So it's like, who cares? So this is a big question. What do you think are your three biggest wheel or the most significant wheels that have come out that are used by hot rodders and sports cars, like, or designers or things like that? Like, what were your influences in the wheel game?
So yeah, my influences might not necessarily be like the shared influences of the wheel industry. They might not be the most significant, wheel introductions or styles ever, but like my favorite wheels and the wheels that like, had a lasting impression on me and kind of excited me, like actually were really simple designs. Like my favorite wheel of all time, like when I was a kid, when I was like 13, 14 years old, when I first got my 5-liter Mustang, my grandfather gave me that car when I was 14 as kind of an incentive to do well in school, not screw up, and this will be your car when you turn 16. So I took a picture of that car and like, printed it out, like whatever, standard size paper, and figured out the scaling of it. And then I went in Tire Rack and like cut out, like, I don't know if you remember, but the Tire Rack ads in most magazines, like Car and Driver and stuff, like, no, they just had like all the wheels,
the rows,
printed,
like rows.
Yes. So I used to go and like meticulously cut them out, like 2 at a time, and like paste or tape them onto my car so I could see what it would look like. Like, I basically created my own, makeshift configurator when I was a kid. So, I really like the wheels that were influential back then that like I loved were like Fittipaldis, Momos. My favorite wheel of all time is the OZ Futura 3-piece. Like, I have a set. Yep. I had a set on my current Mustang. I actually had 2 sets for that car, and I still have one that I'm going to rebuild and do something with. I'm kind of saving those, for a future project, or to like rebuild and rebarrel and put on my Mustang.
Yep.
But that's my favorite wheel of all time. One of the like coolest wheels that like the mid 90s to me was there was a Momo, and I always forget. They had a Momo Tubulari, which is cool because it had like 2 tube-shaped spokes. But then there was another one that it was just a simple 5-spoke with like a colored insert. Like,
I know exactly the way you're talking about.
Carbon fiber insert. Like, you could take those out and like color match them to the car, and that was like all I ever wanted, right? And like, it didn't matter that they didn't make it in the right size or fit in it for a Fox body, but I was just like, I'm going to save all my money, and that's what I'm going to get. But
right.
Like, I thought that was cool just because it allowed you to like totally tailor your wheels to your car and like really customize it and like make it like a perfect match to your car. So to me, that was one of the most influential wheels for me. I don't know that it really took off as an industry trend or anything, but like it was just something that was super memorable for me.
I like the fact that you made your own like South Park-esque wheel configurator. Like, remember when South Park started and it was, and like the characters were out of construction paper? I could see like, like little Ron, like with his scissors out there cutting wheels, be like, I got this. You know what I mean?
That's exactly what it was. I mean, I was like 13, 14 years old. That was the only way to like visualize and like get like an accurate representation, or at least what I thought was. But it was
that was like half the issue of every issue of Lowrider, right? It was just
Oh, yeah.
wheel ads, and it's just metric tonnage of wheel ads, right?
Yeah.
So good.
So Ron, when was the turning point? Like when aftermarket wheels really kind of came into their own? Because I know like early 2000s, fine, you had like the Boyd stuff and whatnot, but like what was it, mid 80s? Was it mid 90s where aftermarket reels really kind of like it became like a massive thing?
Yeah, I mean, like I remember being like 6, 7 years old. I grew up in Atlanta, and my dad was a car enthusiast, so was my grandfather. And like, I mean, I was actually 4 years old when I like customized my first car. Like
Hang on, I'm gonna stop you really quick, just because. So Ron in Atlanta, and we're gonna show a picture of this. Ron's dad. Tell everybody what your dad drove, because when you see this picture, you're gonna lose your mind.
My dad had brand new in '72 a '72 Pantera that was candy apple red with white and yellow like seaweed flames, like custom painted on the hood.
What?
It had, it had Lucas fog lights, and like, I'm sure he opened up the exhaust. Like, I'm sure he didn't leave the motor alone, but I never got to experience that car. He got rid of it long before I was born, but that's still like legendary in our family, and everyone talks, like all my cousins talk about getting dropped off to school in that thing, and like I'm just like so jealous that I never ever got to experience it. But my dad was out there. I mean, he was a black dude, 1972. I think he was a cop. I think he was a cop then. He was
even
working
better.
for Atlanta Police Department, and like, he was out there, dude. Like my dad's his nickname was Sugar Bear. So
Sugar Bear, even better,
best ever.
God, so good.
Right. So like Ron, like it's for everybody that if they're not watching, tune in the video, because like that your style is genetically passed down from your dad.
For sure. 100%. Yeah. I mean, like he was a little more out there maybe than I am, but I mean, like I kind of took some chances and did some wild stuff with my Mustang. So
I mean, you gotta recreate that Pantera, dude. What are
you doing?
Oh.
Like I've had a couple people offer to help me find it. Like I don't know like how I would even find a VIN or like be able to trace that car, but I've had a couple people offer like seriously like help me.
It's got to be somewhere.
So
I hope it's in a garage just covered with dust in Atlanta somewhere.
I would imagine that anybody that bought that car would like immediately paint over those flames or just remove that like color change. But like, who knows, man? Like I never really put much effort into finding it, but recreating it is definitely something that's like on my agenda. That's like one of my bucket list builds is to build at least an updated version of that. But yeah, Pantera is a must-have at some point.
All right, so I didn't mean to cut you off. So now going back to but I wanted to set the stage for. Yeah, that's style awesome. That, and you guys can see the pic, and then you'll be like, oh yeah, that makes total sense. So, all right.
So, like I mean, as far as wheels, like really like gaining popularity and becoming like kind of a must-have accessory, like like I said, I was born in 1980, so 84 was when I started like reading car magazines. I got really into four-wheeler, and there was only like one build style. It was like boggers, super swampers. Everything was huge, and it was like like I love especially the trucks from like they did features on trucks from like Reykjavik, I think, in like Iceland.
Yeah.
Those huge tires, like tractor tires on those trucks over there, and like that, I love that stuff. So my grandfather had a '79 F-150 two-wheel drive.
Nice.
And yeah, I mean, it was like his third car. It's like it probably had no miles on it. Like he absolutely did not need a new truck, but I convinced him to trade that in for a brand new '84 F-150. Had to be 4x4.
Right.
Like who knows if I even knew what that really meant, but like had to have 4x4. Had to be red, and then I convinced him to lift it, put it on big aluminum wheels and big tires, and do the chrome roll bar with KC highlights and like two bumpers, like we threw the whole like JC Whitney catalog at it, but
like the Ford version of the Fall Guy, right?
Exactly.
So good.
Exactly.
So good.
And that's exactly what it was, and that was like totally the influence too. But I don't know why I don't know if he's not really a Ford guy, but we stuck with a Ford. But that truck, like that was like when I like really got interested in wheels and like started paying attention to the difference between the wheels on all the different cars and trucks on the road, right? So
yeah,
like a couple years later, I went with my dad and at this time he had a like an mid 80s Toyota. They weren't Tacomas, but whatever the little, like the mini truck, the Toyota mini truck.
Mm-hmm.
And it was black with like gold stripes. And I remember going to a wheel shop, and like I didn't know wheel shops existed, but we went to a wheel shop in downtown Atlanta, and they brought out a bunch of wheels to put up next to the truck, and like put them in a little mount thing, and like you like, it was like my visualizer, like you could see what that wheel would look like on your car. And he ended up buying some like gold Gottis, and like nice. So that was like another level like of like, oh wow, like you like there's these cool wheels like from Europe and this and that, like that's when I really got into it. And I think it was like the mid late 90s when you start getting Japanese influences, you start getting imports, like guys ordering wheels from Japan. Really, what I really think like blew up the wheel industry was the beginning of mail order and like from the back of magazines and stuff.
Right,
because
sure.
You didn't have to go to a wheel shop, and wheel shops weren't very common to begin with. Like I said, like I had no idea one even existed in Atlanta until we actually visited. But it's something you had to seek out. But like now you're flipping through magazines, and you've got all these forged billet options from like 5 different manufacturers, starting with Fords, of course. And then like companies like MHT, who is one of the parent companies that Wheel Pros merged with a couple of years ago. MHT had a ton of brands. They had like Concept Meeper. They had a few other brands that like really came to prominence like in the late 90s, and they were like real advanced designs, and they were like on the forefront, like the cutting edge of like larger sizes. So they were like some of the first brands to offer like 20-inch wheels. And right around that time, like 98, 99, I think is when like wheels really exploded, and like there just became hundreds of manufacturers, all sorts of different styles. Like you weren't like forced to choose between torque thrust and like Kragers. Like there was all sorts of options, all sorts of sizes, and like wheels specific for sport trucks, wheels specific for imports, for Euros. Like that's when things really, I hate to say it, but started rolling and like really like gained steam.
Now, when you were in Atlanta, were you there long enough before you moved to California or whatever to see the whole Freaknik experience? Because that was a wheel. That to me, that was a wheels thing too.
Yeah, dude.
Right.
For sure.
That was wheels. Like that's what I remember seeing cars with those and wheels. I saw wheels, and of course, this is the '90s, so it was hard to see stuff like that. I mean,
so Dan, explain what Freaknik is for those who might not know.
Dude, I don't even know. I'm in the presence of Ron. I don't even think I can do it justice.
So how would you explain it?
So Freaknik was like, it was started as like a black college, like historically black college spring break like celebration, right? And it started just as a picnic. But then it grew into like a citywide festival, and like
insane.
People would drive from all over the country. Like you'd see license plates from New York, Texas, even California. Like people literally drove all the way across country just to like. There weren't really many organized like events or like I'm sure there were like clubs were packed and stuff, and all the restaurants. But really, the party was in the street. Like, everybody was just cruising around, packing the parks. Like there was one park that me and my friends used to frequent like almost every Sunday in the summer. We'd go to Mosley and Maddox parks, and like that's where everybody came out, brought their hot rods, their lowriders. Like there was a total cross section of car culture there. You'd see it all, but like you just cruise through the park and then go to the next park, cruise back. But like Freaknik like was that like times 1,000. Like you could get insane downtown and like not move for hours, and like city residents didn't really love it, so that's why it had like a good like 4 or 5 year run. That peaked like 93 to 97 really, and like I started driving in 96, so of course me and my friends jumped in my Mustang. I had a convertible.
Oh, you're the perfect age.
Oh yeah, dude, we're downtown stuck. Like, oh mom, sorry, we're stuck in traffic. not gonna make it home in time. But
you're just on Peachtree, whichever Peachtree you wanted, with the engine shut off because you're just sitting there, right?
You must have spent some time in Atlanta.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's like Peachtree Road, Peachtree Meadow, Peachtree Street, Peachtree Avenue. Like there's like everything
was Peachtree. Yeah, right.
To get around if you don't know where you're going.
True.
But yeah, like
it's so true.
Freaknik was definitely a celebration of car culture and wheels too, because like I'll tell you a funny story. Is like one Freaknik, it must have been 97 or 98 because I had my Mustang, and like I was going home the next morning. I had stayed at a friend's house. I was going home the next morning, and Redman the rapper, like, is at a light next to me in a Lexus ST400, and like it had wheels and stuff, and like that was like a baller ass car back then. So it was
Back
like,
then, sure.
who is that? So I pull up next to him. It's Redman. Of course, he's smoking and stuff, and like light turns green. We look up, we look at each other, and we just floor it and take off. And that was down Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. Like that was kind of in the hood, like in my neighborhood, but like we probably got to like triple digit speeds, and then like I turned off. I was like, where you're going is where all the cops are. I'm not going there. I turned off. Like, I'm sure he didn't get pulled over or get a ticket. I'm sure it would have been like national news if he had. But like, that was, it's just, that's the kind of thing that happens Freaknik weekend. Like,
Yeah. God. Never got to go, but I saw it from a distance. I was like, man, that was on my list. And of course, like you said, it came and went before I think, which I think was probably pretty good that we can all look at that through the lens of history now. Whereas back then, if it would have lasted too long, it probably could have jumped the shark, but it just kind of, it left a young and pretty corpse. You know what I mean?
Right. Exactly right. Yeah. It was fun. It's like, super nostalgic, and it's fun to think back on, but like, ultimately it would have gotten like, like become corporate, and like, it would have been watered down, and like, the I don't know, the excitement of it would have been lost.
Yeah, well, remember like Nopi Nationals and all that stuff, how that blew up and then fizzled out real quick. It's like, so when did you start actually designing wheels, Ron? So when you first got into the industry as a designer, you said, well, I can do this. Like, I have the talent to do this. How did that start?
So the first job I got in the wheel industry was I was at USC. I was in the architecture program, and like I was like not satisfied. I didn't feel like I was learning or like growing there, and like I was gonna transfer to USC art school because like most of my like architecture history and credits like that would have transferred over, and it would have been an easy way to get out, right? So like I was like, I always thought I wanted to be an architect, but really I knew I wanted to work with cars, and I thought like the only way to earn like legitimate design background is to be an architect, and then you do that for a career, and then you play with cars on the side, and maybe you retire and you build some cool cars. Like, I hadn't been exposed to like the car culture in California, so I had no idea like that it was what a thriving industry it was, building custom cars, designing wheels, etc. So, for me, I was kind of blindsided when I got to California. When I came to visit USC, I was just like, oh my God, like all the cars and trucks and stuff that I would see in magazines are like on the street, like every day here. And I really like wanted to get into the aftermarket industry. So I applied, like I went on SEMA's website actually and went to their like job listing page, and like I found like a listing for an opening at a wheel company, and it was right down the street from USC. And I was like, I have to make this work. Like, I can ride my bike to work. I can go to school and ride my bike to work, like after school or, whatever my schedule permits. So I like sent an email, made a phone call, like didn't get a response. And I was just hammering. Like I probably called like every day for like 2 weeks. And like I emailed the guy, Larry Brown, who ended up giving me the job. I basically wore him down. I think it was like right around SEMA time, and he was just like busy, but like I had no idea what that meant. So I'm just like, dude, like I'm not going away. Like, like I'm coming in for an interview. Like please, like I really want this. So finally he caved, and I went in for an interview, and like it was a super cool company, a very small company, but it was called Arelli Alloy Wheels, and it was basically owned by 3 partners, and it was Larry and his cousin Fred, and then their partner Alex Thomas, and those guys were like furniture makers. Like Larry was very much a designer, but Alex and Fred were furniture makers. Like they made like high-end wood furniture and stuff. So like they were craftsmen, and like they were very stylish guys. And like, they like the designs were like way out there. Like you'll have to throw up an image of the Arelli Assassin, which is like the weirdest looking wheel ever. It was like 2 spokes. It looked like 2 Nike swooshes, like almost the yin and yang. And like, it was like not the prettiest wheel by any stretch. It was very unique, and they sold a ton of them. And I'm like what? Like you're putting that on a new Mercedes? You're putting that on like a Corvette? Like no, dude. Like like I started basically as an intern, just kind of working in every department. So like I would answer sales calls and stuff, and like I'm just like I almost felt like I had to talk some people out of putting that wheel on their car. But, they're like, no, idiot, it's your job to sell the wheels. Like, you don't have to see it every day. Like, sell it. So yeah, I started as an intern, and like I like answer sales calls. I would deliver wheels, pick up wheels like from different vendors and stuff. I would work in the warehouse. I actually assembled 3-piece wheels. Like that's where like I learned like really fitments and how stuff works and how wheels go onto cars and like how you can, customize, modify, and like, really dial in the fitment. And I worked with the marketing team, like working on their monthly ads. Back then print was huge, obviously, and like you had to have like a new ad with new styles like every couple months. Like it was like super competitive and like very fast paced as far as that stuff went. Like you couldn't just like create an ad and like let that run for a year. Like everything was like advancing so quickly at that time that you had to be on top of it, and you had to like market very rapidly. So yeah, I just started working there, and honestly, like, I'd sit down with Larry and he'd be designing stuff and like he'd ask for input, and like, we'd all kind of like say, oh, maybe if you straighten that or lengthen this, and like that's really, how I got started. So, I always have to thank Larry for giving me that opportunity, because it's I was 21 and like, knew nothing except, what I was passionate about. But like, I had some eye for design, and he kind of recognized that and let me run with it to some extent. And like, he'd consult me, and like, he was a very proud designer, and he came up with some really cool stuff. And like, it was, I felt very fortunate to have that opportunity. And then after that, I went to a company called Giovanna Wheels, and I, was hired just as a salesman, but, quickly got involved in design and development there. And, that was probably like the biggest launching pad, for me and on the design side. Because I mean, we'd introduced 10 to 15 new wheels every year, and like, created new series of wheels, new lines. And, there was just like tons of opportunity there. And like, we did some really cool stuff, and like always surrounded by like the newest, hottest cars. So,
well,
for sure.
Giovanni was big on television too. Like when the shows like, what was it?
Like Pimp My Ride and all that stuff. Like they were the wheel provider for like every.
They were, right? Yeah. Like you saw them on there, and they were like, and of course we've got the 22-inch Giovanni wheels that we're putting on here. So how did it? All right, so because you've been in entertainment, and you've worked with celebrities and all that stuff. So when did that get into the wheel industry? So for like, when did celebrity endorsements, just like sneakers, when did that come into the wheel industry, and how is that impact? Because you've designed wheels for a number of celebrities out there.
Yeah, like I mean, the list is so extensive I wouldn't even know where to start. But it's like I always design for the car, not for the person. But like I always want everybody's car to look as best it can and be something that I'm proud of, not just like some whim of what they think is cool and what they think they want. But like that really blew up with the advent of Dub magazine. Dub magazine, I think Miles launched Dub in 2000, and that's like it was like like that coincided with MTV Cribs, and it was like we all wanted insight into celebrities' lifestyles and like how they live, what they drove, what shoes they had, what wheels they had. Like it was like we as a culture couldn't eat that up fast enough. So Dub magazine definitely brought like celebrities to and their taste in cars like to the mainstream. And like that's when stuff like obviously the 20-inch and up, like the 22s, 24s, like at that time were brand new, and that's when that stuff just like took off and went crazy. And it was like a race to become the biggest, like throughout the 2000s.
God, that's and Dub, I'm glad you said that, because we talk about this a lot. Back in I'll say 2004 ish, when Craig came out the 300, the latest, it was just that's all you saw. It was wheels and 300s, and it was some combination of paint, wheel, limo tint, heartbeat stripe, and some sort of variation. Right? It was all that, and that's now. That's all, we talk and kind of joke nowadays that all that's been replaced by trucks at SEMA. But for a while, it was just nothing but 300s and wheels. Right? That's just the world was. And I'm sure you were right in the midst of all that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, like 2004, 2005, like that's all SEMA was Chargers, 300s. I had an 05 Mustang.
Magnums.
Magnums.
I had a Magnum. Well, yeah.
Yeah, the Magnum. The 300, especially when we talk about this a lot in regard to the SEMA show, the 300, when Chrysler dropped that, it all of a sudden turned into a world filled with nothing but 300s and wheels, right?
Yeah.
Limo,
Yeah,
different, and it was just variations of limo tint and heartbeat stripes and
Rolls Royce
diamond,
grill,
diamond crusted, yeah. Right, like what could you do with your mom's Magnum? It was that world for a while, right? You can get away with it. Now, since then, obviously, SEMA has turned into the truck version of all that. But you could not swing a dead cat without hitting a 300 in some sort of variant, with wheels. And I'm sure you were right in the midst of all that, right?
Absolutely, of course. Like 2004, 2005, that's all SEMA was. It seemed like it was all Chargers, 300s, Magnums, body kits, big wheels, brakes, like everything you could throw at it. Like they were everywhere. And like we definitely took advantage of that, and I sold hundreds of thousands of wheels, I'm sure, for the LX platform. And thanks to Ralph and the team there, like they definitely kept me afloat through mid 2000s. But it was like people joke that it was a poor man's Bentley or whatever, and like it was just a street classic. Like it was affordable, but like you get Hemi performance, and it was luxurious for the time. Like it was the perfect platform for wheel manufacturers to showcase their stuff, because they'd swallow huge wheels. Like people still put 24s, 26s on those cars like all day.
Well, wasn't that I mean, when that came out, when the 300s came out and the Chargers, wasn't it one of the first factory, like the OEM's car with a 20-inch wheel standard? Like like on the SRT models, right? Because they came my Magnum, I had an SRT8 Magnum, which came stock with 20 by 9s.
20 by 9 forged wheels.
Forged, baby.
Hey, Alcoas.
Most people didn't pay attention to that or really care, but those wheels are actually kind of valuable. Like I sold the wheels off mine and like got some decent money for them. But they were just a larger chassis, and like they were designed for big wheels, so it worked perfectly. And it's like at the same time, like I had a Mustang, I had a 05 Mustang that I got in 2005, and I built that for the 2005 SEMA show, and like went crazy on that, and I put 22s on it, and everybody said I was crazy, and turns out I was. Like that car really does not handle 22s well. Like I was always bending wheels and blowing tires and stuff, and like it was just always something. Like the wheels vibrating like crazy, but it looked great, but like definitely the LX cars were like meant for 22s, and it's just still super popular today. 15 years later.
Now, Ron, here's a question for you, because I think this would be a real, valuable, bit of intel for everyone in the listening audience, even if they already know. Like, can you take a couple minutes and really explain what the difference is between, say, a cast, a CNC, a forged wheel? Like, what's the different process there, right? Because I know even I've got my daily is a 2010 300 SRT8, and my wheels say Alcoa forged on them, and there's got to be a reason for that.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, that's something to be proud of. Obviously it's a U.S. manufacturer, and U.S. source aluminum and stuff. So, obviously we have the same here at Wheel Pros. Most forged wheels sold in the U.S. are actually manufactured in the U.S. And especially with tariffs lately, we try and source aluminum here in the States. It's not always the easiest, but that's an effort that's made. In the custom forged wheel industry is everything is made in the U.S., sourced in the U.S. But 90% of wheels are cast. Like street cars, like OE wheels, 99% of wheels are cast. It's like almost everything is a cast wheel, and cast wheels. There's been huge advances in the manufacturing technology in cast wheels over the last 10 to 15 years. So it's never been looked down upon, but it's always the cheaper, the more cost effective option of manufacturing. So
what's the difference between a forged and a cast?
Yeah, so a cast wheel, basically you have a mold. It's the shape of that wheel, and you take molten aluminum and you pour that into that mold. It cools in the shape, and then you remove it and you machine the fine details on the wheel. You machine the bolt pattern, the offset, the fitment, as we call it, and then finish it, and that's your ready in the box wheel, ready to go, mass produced. Made hundreds or thousands of wheels from each particular mold, right? Like a mold has a lifespan of depending on like I said, technology has improved so much lately, but I mean you can make like 10,000 wheels per mold before retiring. So that's it's obviously the more cost-effective way of mass producing a wheel.
Okay.
A forged wheel, typically as a finished product, has a lighter weight, and much greater strength because the aluminum is never molten. It's superheated, but it's never molten, and it's pressed with like a huge press with hundreds of tons of pressure, and it basically forms that wheel into a blank. It forms it into just basically think like a solid disc.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can make monoblock, you can make 2-piece, you can make 3-piece forged. So a 3-piece forged wheel is just going to have a forged center disc. So that's pressed into a forged center disc, and then you put that on a lathe, and you lathe turn it to the desired profile. You remove material on a mill, and you cut out the style, and then you create the fitment, bolt pattern, offset, etc. You shave, and you remove weight wherever you can, and because the metal has much higher structural integrity, you can remove a lot more material visually compared to a cast wheel. So you can have thinner spokes, and you can have lightning pockets all over the wheel that actually help to reduce weight but still maintain a super strong wheel. So like almost all motorsport wheels are forged. A lot are monoblock, 1-piece. There's still manufacturers making 3-piece motorsport wheels, but the advantage of a 3-piece forged wheel over say a 1-piece forged wheel is if you were to damage that wheel, if you were to curb it or hit like a severe pothole or a big bump in the road, then you're likely going to bend one of your inners or outers. And like I'll send you guys some graphics to throw up, but if you bend an inner, you can unbolt that wheel, remove that inner, put a new one on, and like you're back on the road. Like typically need a day because those 3-piece wheels have a silicone seal that is basically what contains air, and like I said, you're back on the road with minimal cost and repairs in just a day or so, instead of having to replace a wheel, because you bend or crack a wheel, like it's really not recommended to repair that. You really should be replacing a wheel, especially after a crack. Like the structural integrity is completely lost, and it'll never be the same after that. But necessity requires a lot of guys
money.
will. Yeah, exactly. A lot of guys will repair or weld up a cracked wheel, but it's never advisable. So.
Interesting.
Yeah, but I mean, the process, typically a cast wheel, is, or I should say, a forged wheel is typically 3 to 4 times more expensive than a cast wheel. But now we have flow forming, which is kind of like in between. Like it's basically you do cast the wheel, but then you can roll or press out the barrel of that wheel in order to give you some modularity as far as the fitment and the width. So it's like you still have the same profile in the front, but now with flow forming, you basically roll out that barrel so you can have the same wheel and with one mold, but you can have 9-inch wide, 9.5-inch wide, 10-inch wide. Like you can stretch that barrel out, and it's cast with thicker barrels, so that when you do roll it out, you still have structural integrity of that barrel. But it's a lower cost way of providing, like I said, modularity and allowing you to fit multiple vehicles, or at least have multiple different fitments from one mold.
All right, so now Dan, this is just for you and me. We need to put this up on, and everybody can do this. We're going to put this up, and we're going to thumbtack it to the website, so everybody that wants to know what the difference between wheels are, this is what you listen to.
That's right.
Because it's right. It's correct.
Don't listen to your neighbor. Don't be getting on some Facebook page and arguing with people. Just listen to Ron.
Right. We could. I mean, talk about backspacing, but that'd blow up the internet.
Yeah, I was going to say, I've overly simplified this whole process. So it's like, that is the most layman's terms that, I think I can express it in without kind of going over most people's heads or even my own. Like, it's like, it's not that simple, but, that's the gist of it.
So here's my big question for you, Ron. Now, we were talking about like the 80s, 90s street rod scene, right? And the pastel colors and all that nonsense. And one of the discussions we get into here at Hemmings is, the window of collectability for cars rolls around a 20-year period, and that just kind of moves along, right? Moves slowly along the timetable. So we all think like nowadays, who in their right mind, when will those 90s era fat tubbed pro parking lot, heartbeat striped pastel orange pop, moon roof, tweed interior, digital gauged monsters. Yeah, Wheezy 307 powered, dripping with billet aluminum. When are those? We know that those cars are just hidden away in garages, suburban garages all over this great land of ours, right? And nobody in their right mind would limp one of those things out to a show. And those directional wheels and the blades, and I'm talking. You know where I'm going with this?
Exactly what you're talking about.
When are those coming back? Because I want to make sure that I'm just put to cryogenic sleep when that happens. But I'm just saying, in general, when is that going to happen so I can prepare my eternal sleep?
I'd like to pretend that like I'm ahead of the curve and predicting stuff like that. But I don't know. It was earlier last year. I think I posted on Instagram it was like a 32 or 34 coupe that I saw at Bob's Big Boy Cruising, and this thing was like pastel peach, and it had like neon graphics, like airbrush graphics on it. It had like original like Boyd's billets, and I was like,
French antenna, the whole deal.
I was like, this was like the late 80s, 90s to the T.
Yeah.
I called out our friends at Radwood, and I was just like, tell the truth. Like, if this thing showed up to Radwood, like, not only would you allow it in? Like, because Radwood is
fair question.
Sure. Fair question. Like anything built between 1980 and 1999, right?
Yeah.
But I don't think anything is more quintessential of that era than pro street cars. Maybe,
I agree.
But like those, like that style of pro street build was like the epitome of like the late 80s, mid 90s, and like.
Dude, I feel like you could narrow it down to like the month.
Yeah,
you kind of could.
Like by the color and the stripe and the wheels, you're like, oh well, this was built in August of '89.
Yeah, I just started buying a bunch of, even though I have like all these magazines at home in Atlanta, like, I'm not going to go and either ship them or go and like sort through them and bring them back with me. But I just started buying a bunch of like hot rod, street rodder, sport truck magazines from the mid 90s, just finding them on eBay. And like, you literally can, like, you can see like, okay, SEMA 1995, like that was like a watermark. So like the first 6 months of 1996, like everything looked like this. And like, like earlier than that, it was like all the scallop paint jobs, like everything like that, like a real like solid like 2-year run before like it got replaced with something else. So it was like, mid to late 90s was like more monochromatic with like the magentas and like earlier was like mint greens and yellows and purples and stuff, and like it's like all the crazy wild graphics and like asymmetrical paint jobs, like all that stuff. Like to me, like I know it went out of style, but like I've never like lost appreciation for it. So like I'm I'm looking for like inspiration for something to do with my tile. Like I don't know if I'll paint it crazy like that, but maybe do some crazy like wrap with like some asymmetric paint job and like just some crazy 80s 90s like graphics and stuff. But
Ron, just know, Ron, that when you do that, Ron, just realize that you are going to be carrying the weight of all of us on your shoulders if you dare to take that on. I'm just saying.
I know.
I'll take it on.
Yeah, I'm not scared, but like I just can't decide what I like and like what I want to like make as a statement. But eventually we'll get there. I think it's doing it in vinyl is like easy, like definitely like makes it much more palatable, and like I'm not just painting this beautiful bit like with original paint.
All right.
Man.
But like the pro street cars, man, I'm all about it. Like
I want to see those come back.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh my God.
Like like the guys at Radwood, like to my point, like I asked Bradley specifically, I was like, would you not allow this thing? He's like, of course I'd allow it. And like I don't think he said this, but I think like something like that would easily win, raddest in show, or like, take home some trophy, best paint, something. Like, you have to, like, some of those builds were incredible, even though they were, trailer queens or just like,
still incredible
cruisers, like, like insane levels of fabrication and just, creativity went into those cars. So you have to appreciate it.
I totally agree with that. I think that's a great, both you guys made a good point. And I think that that kind of pro street, pastel, heartbeat stripe, original billet skinnies, in fact, like 15 by 12s in the front, but billets. That's
ridiculous.
Like if I see one of those now, if I see like a 32 Ford like that, I'm like, eh. But if I see like a Cuda or I see a Mustang in that style, I have to just go, I gotta follow that. because that it's just cool. I mean, it's just cool. It really is. So, well, let me ask you. So, because we're coming up on an hour, so and unfortunately we got
already.
I do.
Crazy.
Time just boogies.
In the 90s. Yeah.
So, what do you think now? I mean, you monitor trends. You see what's going on in not only the auto industry, but the design industry and the fashion industry, right? So, how does all of that culminate in what you determine, right? You especially the OEMs, right? Because the OEMs come out with, we've got everything is going electronic, everything is going EV. You know, in 15 years, we know we're going to have a lot of EVs on the road and stuff like that. So, do you take that design element into consideration, or do you pretty much stick to your own personal aesthetic and say, okay, well, I'll adapt as the car adapt, or this is what I do. These cars be damned, whatever the case is.
You can never turn your back on innovation and like what the OEs are doing. Like you can't just say, oh, like that's ugly or like that's stupid. And like they're not. I don't think electrification, I don't think EVs and hybrids or stuff are actually killing the enthusiast market, like a lot of people would say. I think it's a chance for innovation and to hone our skills and our offerings and make something that's lightweight so you don't lose range, but you can modify your electric car to update and personalize it. Because it's like, you know, you look at Tesla has like 2 wheels and like, you know, they're pretty bland, but like, you know, they're offered in like larger sizes. Like on a Model S you get 21s, you know. It's all of that is really a function of brakes becoming larger, cars becoming heavier, and like, you know, the brakes are massive, so you know, you need larger wheels in order to accommodate those brakes. But it gives, you know, us, the aftermarket, an opportunity to match the factory tire sizes with something that's really cool, that's lightweight, that's functional, and you know, actually improves the appearance and the performance of the vehicle. So that's something that we're working on, is, you know, like lightweight forged and flow form wheels specifically for Tesla, for Porsche Taycan, like, you know, like the enthusiast EVs. But I mean, you know, you've got Rivian and the electric F-150 coming. Like, you know, like people are going to modify these things. Like they're going to want to personalize them and put custom wheels on them. And you know, their powertrains are hugely sensitive to modification. Like I know I have a friend that has a Model S. He put some just cast wheels on that he thought looked cool, and like, you know, offered a really cool fitment, and like it looks badass. The car's lowered and stuff, but the second he put the wheels on, and you know, he did staggered tires, and like, you know, he really like has like a beefy fitment. He said he lost 30 to 35% range. So it's like, you've got to be sensitive and aware of that stuff, and realize that that's going to be a deal breaker for most people. Like he doesn't really care because he doesn't like road trip that car and he doesn't go too far with it. But like, you know, it's all about style for him. But like, you know, for most customers, it's going to be a balance of style and functionality. And, you know, as a designer in development, like that's obviously something that we have to consider, and that, you know, is kind of paramount. It's like you can't just make cool stuff that sucks to drive and ride on, you know?
Right. All right. So like I said, we're unfortunately coming up on closing time. Let me ask you, so one, obviously, thank you for coming on the barbecue.
Thank you guys for having me.
I said this at the beginning, I'll say it again. You will be seeing more of Ron in different capacities on Hemmings. So just keep an eye out for his amazing face, because you will see it, get used to it. He's going to be a fixture because he's amazing. But Ron, right now, where can people find you? Where can they see stuff that you design? Where can they follow your work? Give us an idea.
I'm working on updating my own website with, you know, some of my old stuff. But you know, I'm on Instagram. I'm not really on Twitter, but I'm on Instagram as 777 style, and you know, that's just kind of like my interests, my cars, and you know, my work. Obviously, you know, I work at Wheel Pros, like, and you know, you'll see our stuff from Rotiform to American Racing, Niche, you know, Fuel. Like, you know, we've got something like 22 brands, and you know, I just started here recently, but like I'm getting more and more entrenched in the design development process. So you know, most of the stuff that you see coming from us in 2021 is I will have had a hand in it, and you know, that's super exciting, and it's fun to work with a company with such resources and such history. I mean, American Racing and US Mags are like the oldest wheel brands in in not just in the country, but in the world. I mean, you know, American Racing and US Mags like really started the wheel industry, you know, 50, 60 years ago. So
yeah, he did. And by the way, Ron, I will tell you that we are broadcasting, at least from this office, we are broadcasting literally down the street from the original American Racing.
Really?
Offices. Oh yeah.
That's sick.
Yeah, down the Mission, San Francisco.
That's amazing.
Awesome. Yeah, man.
What's
Oh,
on
and
that
one last
big
and one last request here. One last request too for you, Ron. As a hot rodder, what's it going to take to get magnesium wheels brought back?
Ooh.
That's what I was. Come on, man.
That's a big one.
Come on.
That's big.
You know, the difficulty with magnesium is its flammability, and it's just like, you know, it's like every step of the process like is just
Fire
so much more added risk. Like
It makes it so much cooler. You know,
nobody wants to have like tons of magnesium sitting around their warehouse. Like,
yeah, I want a wheel that the actual factory guys have lost eyebrows over. Like that's the wheel that I want. You know,
it's exactly what you're asking for. Like I shop like Halibran magnesiums and stuff, just like it's cool relics and stuff like on eBay, and it's crazy how expensive that's.
Oh, insane how expensive those are.
Just like one single wheel, like, you know, a couple grand. I'm like,
oh yeah,
I can't even make a set out of this. Like, you know,
I got a set. Yeah, I got a set.
Hang on to those. Dude.
I know.
So, all right. Well, guys, listen, Ron, as always, thank you.
Thanks, Ron.
Thank you guys. I had fun.
We will see you shortly. And like I said, if people want to get in touch with Ron, our best place is 777 Style on Instagram.
Yep.
DM him. He is one of the best guys in the industry. He will get back to you, unless you ask really stupid questions, to which then he'll ignore you, because that's what I would do.
Right.
But like, you know, like everyone like forwards me cars that they're interested in or that they think I'd be interested in, and you can do that all day long. Like, send them. All right, guys. We will we will all talk to you soon. Thank you for tuning into the Hot Rod Barbecue, and we'll see everybody soon.
Thanks for listening, folks. And again, please subscribe to the Hot Rod Barbecue podcast. If you're on Spotify, check us out there. Subscribe to it on iTunes. And if you are going to go to YouTube, make sure you go to the Hot Rod Barbecue podcast and hit that subscribe button, and we'll come to you every week.